In episode 0, we talked about why most companies don't have an execution problem, they have a systems problem. Today, we do the opposite of theory. We're going to build the strategy, not a deck, not a slogan, not a vague grow revenue, a real strategy, the kind that creates focus, forces trade offs, and actually survives contact with reality. And I'm going to build it live so you can copy the process for your own company. Here's the cleanest definition I've found of what strategy is. Strategy is the set of choices you make under real constraints, and it answers 4 questions. What's true right now? What are we choosing because of that truth? What are we not doing? How will we win with the resources we actually have? And if your strategy doesn't create constraints, it's not strategy. It's just intentions, maybe good intentions, but it's not strategy. So now we got to ask ourselves where strategy actually comes from. And strategy comes from 3 inputs from my experience and research. Market reality. What's changing? What's getting easier? And what's getting harder? 2, customer reality. What people are actually struggling with, paying for, and switching for. Number 3, company reality. Your company reality. Your capabilities, constraints, and where execution breaks today. Now, as I go through this, some of them are going to be tailored to me. So if it sounds like that, or if I don't call it out, make sure that you take your own interpretation and do it specifically for your company. For example, your capabilities, your constraints, and where execution breaks today is specific to Grapevine. If you skip any of these, you end up with 1 or 2 outcomes. A strategy that sounds great, but can't actually be executed. Or a strategy that's executable, but irrelevant to what you're actually trying to build. So the first step, as a misnomer, is not actually planning. The first step is the diagnosis. And this is the research you're going to actually need and how to do it somewhat fast. So before planning is the research. And what I'm going to be showing here is the strategy research sprint. So in 2 weeks, you'll be able to have a better understanding of what it is that you need to focus on. And this is where most team fails because research turns into this never-ending rabbit hole, especially with the AI tools out there, because you can continuously dig in deeper, dig in deeper, dig in deeper. But part of being a founder or part of creating a strategy is you have to take as much data as you can get in a relatively short amount of time and then make a decision off of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to time box it. That's the first step here. We're going to do a simple 2-week strategy sprint or research sprint. One's going to be external. So that's going to be week 1. And that's going to include 5 customer interviews. And I always hate when videos like this come out and people are talking about customers, but maybe you're not at that point where you even have customers. Maybe you just have an idea, or maybe you have a product, but you haven't gotten any first customers. In this case, customers could mean talking to the people who you think are going to be your customers and then asking them certain things like you would a customer. And in certain cases, you can ask, do they use XYZ, which could be a competitor of what you're going to build or what you have built? And then ask them questions about that, right? It's not perfect, but it gives you something to go beyond customers if you don't have customers. And then you want to do 3 lost deals or churn customers. Churn, for people that don't know out there, it means that you've had a customer and then they didn't renew if you're a software as a service, which we are. So you want to review those. And for this one, if you don't have customers that have gone through the sales process and you lost that deal or prospects, or customers who have churned or left and didn't choose to continue using the platform or the product, this is where you can leverage AI as well and really tap into their research element. So I've done this whenever I was going through the pivot or beginning Grapevine, the old software, and I went through ChatGPT and maybe Perplexity and maybe Claude and asked them, can you go through Reddit threads? Can you go through LinkedIn posts and comments? Can you go through G2 Capterra reviews? The things that AI is already pulling from that are public, That's how you can tap into this. And later in the video, I'll show you how I do this specifically, but then I'll also show you how we're doing it since we do have a little bit of customers at this point. Then you want to do the competitor teardown. And this is going to be their positioning, their claims, and who they specifically target. One thing that I want to call out here too is that there's two different types of competitors here. One competitor is actually a competitor. Like for us, we do a lot. So it could be Asana, it could be Notion, it could be ClickUp, it could be Slack even, it could be these Monday.com, right? So that's a tangible, specific company competitor. Now, the other thing that I learned in reading Crossing the Chasm, which I highly recommend that you read this if you're at this stage and you're watching this video, read Crossing the Chasm. It's going to help you through a lot here as well. But there's something called a competitor alternative. And this isn't necessarily a tool or a company or even a feature. It's certain things like this is what the company is doing right now, or it's that old adage, your competitor isn't Salesforce or HubSpot, it's a spreadsheet. Or your competitor isn't a note-taking app, it's pen and paper, right? So in this one, I suggest that you break down two. So you have one that is the actual company and competitors, and then you have the competitive alternative that isn't an actual company. In some cases, it could just be a function that that company is using or that person that you're targeting is using. And then you want to find the one market trend that you're going to focus on for your strategy, not the multitude of trends out there, but that one that you hone in on. And for us, again, Crossing the Chasm helps you break this down into what they call the beachhead. And that's more of the one problem that you're going to solve or that you're going to focus on. But you can leverage that in tandem with the market trend. For example, when the pandemic hit, almost all companies had to go remote unless they were in person and they couldn't get around that, right? So that was a shift. Now we're seeing distributed teams. We're seeing global workforces. We're seeing AI take people's or companies' needs to have so many people. Those are the types of things that we're talking about, but you want to hone it in onto one. All right, so that's week one. Just to recap, 5 customer interviews, 3 lost deal or churn interviews, competitive teardowns, so positioning, claims, who they target, and then get that one market trend scan. Then we go to week 2. So that's all done in a week. Week 2 is more internal. So this is going to be your KPI reviews. What's moving, what's stalling, what's bleeding, right? Now, this is another scenario where if you're just starting, this could be where you're setting your baseline. Baseline meaning you don't have any KPIs, key performance indicators that you track. So you don't have anything to tailor to. Now, this is where ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever, Gemini, whatever tool that you're using out there could help as well by saying, okay, I'm a startup in this industry, in this company, solving this problem. This is what we do. What are the benchmarks in this industry or products like this at this stage? And then you can have that spit back out to you, but then you want to make sure that it makes sense for you, right? With anything that any AI tool is going to spit out at you, don't just take it for face value. Dig into the replies, the responses, and the details that they're giving to you, right? Because as much as we want to talk about AI hype and it's amazing and it's magic and all this, you want to make sure that you're doing your own due diligence and making sure that what it is that you're building your strategy on is reliable, valid, and trustworthy. And the only way that you can really do that is if you put in that work. Let it do a lot of the upfront work, but then you come behind it and make sure that you're checking it off. Because the strategy is whether you're going to succeed or not. So that's how important this is. Okay, so KPIs. Then we have the next thing that we're going to be looking into. This is mainly for Grapevine, so fill in the blank here, but execution breakdown audit. Where does the work fall apart? Now, if you've been operating for a little bit, you can do this on your own. If you are just starting off, again, take into consideration where have other companies that match somewhat similarities that you have, where have they fallen short? Or what are some of the mistakes that they did, right? And that's kind of the theme here. If you don't have these specific elements, find ways to tap into the plethora of knowledge out there. There's tons of, obviously tons of information on Google, tons of information on YouTube. Leverage that. but also leverage AI to bring those things to you so you don't have to go search and spend hours and hours and hours researching just to find what it is that you're going to then research. All right. The next one here is tool and knowledge audit. Where does the truth get lost? Now, again, that's going to be more so for Grapevine specifically because of what we're offering, the digital workplace or the new operating system or the work management tool evolutionized, right? So for us, it's tool and knowledge audit. And what are the workflows in which the people that we're going to be reaching out to, where do we see that falling apart? Where do we see that falling apart internally too, right? Because this one is also going to be very specific for whenever we get to the rollout phase of the strategy. All right. Now, this is a key distinction. These are 2 weeks, right? So week 1 is external, week 2 is internal, the KPI review, the executional breakdown, and then the tool and the knowledge audit. But you want to make sure that you are not trying to become a market analyst. That's not the goal here. You're trying to find patterns strong enough to make decisions. And sometimes those decisions mean saying no, which we'll get to. So at this point of the video, we have gone through what strategy is, we've gone through how to research it and what's actually needed and where strategy comes from. So this next portion of the video, I want to go through the actual strategy building blocks. And so before I go and share my screen and share the template that we're going to offer to you for free, it's going to be in the description, and you'll be able to use it directly from the website, but then you'll also be able to download it as a PDF that you can share and save in Grapevine or whatever tool that you're using. So before we go there, let's talk about the full build process that we're going to use to build the strategy. So one, we're going to lock in the time horizon, meaning that we're giving a specific time frame for this strategy that we're building. We're going to write the diagnosis specifically for our company, but again, take what we have here and adapt it to what you're building. We're going to pick the constraint, which we'll learn about that, but those are the things that we're going to say no to. Those are the things that are going to guide us to meet the North Star of the strategy. We're going to pick those constraints, and that's going to be our boundaries. That's going to be our guidelines. Then we're going to choose our pillars. What are the 3 to 5 things that we are going to focus on for the strategy to come to life? We're going to write the no list, things that we say no to because they're outside of our scope of strategy. And then we're going to take all this and we're going to turn it into a narrative that people can repeat. And those people mainly are going to be your internal team. Now, this is going to be important for if you're talking to investors, maybe a portion of it when you're talking to customers or prospects, just for them to get an idea around what it is that you're actually trying to do, right? And then we're going to build it live, right? So just to repeat, lock the time horizon, write the diagnosis, pick the constraint, choose the pillars, write the no list, and then we're going to turn that into the narrative that your internal people can really repeat and grab onto. So with that, let's turn to the template that we're going to fill out and we'll get started. All right, so now you should be able to see the strategy builder framework. And this is what we're going to be offering to you guys 100% free. I don't think you even have to add your name. Don't quote me on that. But what we're going to be doing is actually building the strategy using this template and what we just discussed. So for this, let's go ahead and start with step 1, time horizon. And I should say this is not going to be perfect. So as in the video. And even after the video, I might go a little bit more into detail on my own, but this is just so you guys can see how I'm doing this so you can adopt it in your company as well. So I'm going to come in here and do the time horizon. Our strategy is going to be for 12 months. And then I'm just going to call out a kind of backtracking here and saying January 2026 through December 2026, because that's the time frame that we want to give ourselves to accomplish what we're going to be putting into the strategy, breaking down into goals, and then ultimately into initiatives and day-to-day actions that are going to lead us to being successful with this strategy. All right. So we're doing 12 months. I'll go ahead and put my name here. Founder. And then let's just say, for me, it's just me, solo founder right now. And then we're going to go to the diagnose reality. So you can see here, strategy starts with diagnosis, not ambition. Don't skip this section. So when we think about this, what is changing in our market? So our market can fall into work management systems or digital workplaces. And so we want to think about what's changing. And again, this is going to be a little bit messy, but I want you to see as we talk through this how we're doing this. So what's changing? AI is rapidly being developed, improved, and sometimes offsetting the need for software purchases, right? And the thing is as you're going through this strategy development approach, it's going to be uncomfortable if you're actually developing a strategy that is going to set you in the right direction, right? That last part, I didn't want to say it, but it's true. And in some cases, whenever I'm speaking to customers or prospects now, there are some that say, well, I've built this thing internally. It's not perfect, but it's getting the job done, right? So that's another competitive alternative that we have to now think about, right? People are going to build it on their own. I don't approve of it because over time it gets more to sustain and keep or upkeep and maintenance. But that's neither here nor there. Okay. What else is changing in our market? So app space is acquiring many companies like I think it was a workshop or partnering with Igloo, intranet software. Um, Basically, there's a need or desire for more consolidated applications out there. And the reason that this is important is because if we think about this, it's doing two things. One is it's showing us that the area that we're moving in and that we're focusing on is something that is happening. That's a market trend, right? But then also it's showing that okay, if these big players are taking on some of the spaces that we're trying to develop, that could be good or bad for us. So we'll have to think about that. All right. And then let's see what else is changing in the market. Um, the big tech is becoming more and more untrusted, or how do you say that? Well, let's just say untrusted. We'll act like it's there. Untrusted. So this could be an opportunity for us to capitalize on being a trustworthy software company, right? So these are some of the things I would think about. Again, I'm going to probably go through and go into more detail on some of these. But one of the things that I want you to know is that I'm not writing goals. I'm writing the reality of the situation right now. This will eventually turn into goals, but until we have the lay of the land, we can't go confidently into other things. So let's see, what do customers consistently struggle with? So in our space, what we're trying to do is provide software as a system that helps the glue holder of the organization reduce manual coordination and not become the system themselves. So what we often hear is, I've become the system, aka the glue holder of the tools, people, and information in the team or company, right? The other thing is just the data and tool scattered makes them have to restitch everything again and again when the leadership team or board request updates. The operational picture has to be recreated each time, which is a time suck, a productivity killer, and ultimately the blame falls on the glue holder. So that's what we're experiencing right now. Where do we win? This is the tricky part, right? Because the types of things that you're asking yourself whenever you're creating a strategy is sometimes is what are we gonna do or what market we're gonna go into. Other times it's what are we gonna stay away from? What are we not gonna do? So where we win is by targeting industries that aren't inundated into the popular tools like Slack, for example. The non-tech space for the services space that supports tech, but not actually B2B SaaS right now. So I think we win by understanding which market we can narrow down on. So we win by narrowing down the industry, persona, and who we win by narrowing down the industry persona and the places we don't spill over into. And what I mean by that is with the old version of Grapevine, it was more, okay, I'm happy that you're talking to us and I'm getting excited because you're excited about what we're building, but it was everything. It was everybody, no specific industry. We weren't building for a specific problem. We weren't building for a specific person or industry or department or function of a job, right? So we lose if we spray and pray, right? Meaning we're just going to go out and we're going to talk to everybody and that's going to be our strategy. No, we have to get focused. We lose if we don't focus on the problem, the customers, and being a true painkiller. There's this thing out there, a painkiller versus vitamin. If you're a vitamin, you're a nice to have. You take it because you're trying to prevent something. A painkiller is something that creates urgency. Like, for example, when we say they become the glue holders and they have to restitch everything again and again and again each time that leadership asks for an update, that's a problem because not only is it taking away from them and what they're supposed to be working on, if that fails, that's their job sometimes. And so that's a painkiller. Is our product actually a painkiller for a specific person or a set of people in this specific industry? And then how does our product solve for that? Right. So now the other thing is we lose if I probably need to stop saying we because it's only me. So I need to hold myself accountable here. We lose if I do not focus on selling and marketing the business over building the product, right? So these are the things, that's how we're going to lose, right? All right, what are competitors doing that matters? So this is, normally I would go in and research and do all this and then come back and produce this. So let's just see if, let's use Gemini for this because I feel like Gemini is a little bit faster. Let's see, actually. Okay, let's use Gemini for this because my ChatGPT is slow right now. So what I'm going to do here is, let's say, and you research Reddit threads, LinkedIn, post and comments, Capterra, G2 reviews, Clutch, X, etc., and tell me my competitors' approach to success or failure in the category of work management and digital workplace. The goal is to
identify. That will take this. I put that in a little bit early, so to identify.
Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to spit out whatever it is. You can see like it's analyzing the details. It's going through the question that I asked. And again, I wouldn't take this as face value. This is the part that simplifies your approach to deciding where you go in research. For this video, so it's not so long, what we're going to do is we're going to take what it has here and we're going to just copy it. And then we'll turn that into, so, okay, what competitors are doing that matters from co-pilots to agents. Okay, so let's just do this, right? Again, this is probably going to be a little bit longer episode, but I want us to go through everything and make sure that you guys that are watching walk away with what you need to know and how to do this. Okay, so co-pilots to agents, right? We are thinking about, we have co-pilots in our system. We have certain agents, we don't call them agents, but we are thinking about creating agents. So what I would do as a next step is really dig in on, okay, what matters to us, right? So just to continue this, okay, so this is now, so that was external reality, right? We're focusing on what's happening outside of us, the market out there. Now this is internal. What is happening internally that we need to focus on or that we need to improve or that we need to think about, right? Okay. So if I go here, where does execution currently break? We see this happen in handoffs, meaning the execution layer from strategy to execution to day-to-day initiatives are being derailed or delayed when the product is focused on more than the selling and marketing of the product or of the software, right? And at the same time, for our industry, for what we're building, we can actually tap into, we also see this internally from the conversations that we've had with other people, right? So it depends on how you want to take it here, but like, what is your internal reality at the moment? And then if it correlates or there's adjacencies to what you offer and what your customers experience, you can kind of think about them, especially if you're a solo founder like I am right now. I can tap into like, what are their limits? Like what bottleneck limits growth? So let's see, for me, it would be the bottlenecks are being a solo founder. And I mean, it's not necessarily a bottleneck, but we have to be truthful, right? Like we have to be uncomfortable in this situation in building the strategy so we know that it's not biased, just not that we're lying to ourselves. Okay, so bottlenecks are being a solo founder and wearing all the hats, but that's also a benefit in a sense because it gives me firsthand perspective of one of our ICPs, which is the founder operator or solo founder. However, if the focus and my deliverables are not consistent, I can derail the growth of the company and users of the platform. But the good thing with this bottleneck, for example, is once we have more customers and these things start taking off, then we can start to hire interns or part-time and different things like that. So I can even mention that here, right? So let's say if these become true bottlenecks, the plan would be to enhance automations with AI and possibly hire part-time or consultants.
for project work. So let's just leave it at that right now.
What metrics are trending the wrong way? So again, this is something that, like, if you don't have the baseline, then what you would go to is say, let's do another one so it's not convoluted. For digital workplace places or work management platforms, what are good metrics to track at the very early stages of your software? Give me 5 that are true North Star metric. And the reason that I'm showing you this side of it is you can take these prompts and specifically make it for your industry, your category, your platform, your strategy. So let's see. Collaborative density, daily active users. So even that prompt was a little bit wrong. I'm referring to the ones for the internal team and how we
Track success of our company / product. Let's see what it comes up with here.
Okay, this is a good one. So the aha moment, we need to find what is our wedge. Whenever we're talking to customers or prospects, what gets their eyes lighting up, right? Or what are they saying in these conversations? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these. Again, you want to make sure that you're analyzing what you're seeing and making sure that these are the right ones. So don't just take what I'm doing and use that. I'm just trying to make sure that this video isn't 3 hours long. So
let's go here. You can see that we have the goals here. 3 net retention and multiple. We're just making sure. Okay, so we have here's 4, here's 5.
Okay, so that's the ones that we're going to use for this example. And then where are we dependent on individuals instead of systems? So right now we have automated outreach. I'm still doing specific outreach on LinkedIn because I think that that's more personalized. And then Grapevine really takes a lot of the load off, right? So
at the moment, the biggest dependency is on the actual
discovery calls, demos, customer onboarding, and setup. But again, it all depends on your stage, because at this stage, this is what we want to do, right? We want to be manual. So we want to be manual at this stage. But as we navigate the stages, I'll need to make sure I have proper documentation. This is something that a lot of like solo founders or people that aren't working with anybody else or even early stages, I see this so often. It's like, well, we're too early to document. It's never too early to document, whether or not you use it in 6 months or not. The point is that whenever you are going into the hiring process, because you're growing, like there's a reason that you're hiring, and you being able to document, do interviews, maintain the level of output that you have for marketing and sales and demos and all this kind of stuff. You're not going to document. So as you're going through these stages, make sure that you're having the proper documentations or the proper documentation. And then that way you can even set reminders. Like we have knowledge base in Grapevine. So I'm going to create these documentation pieces, and then I'm going to set, due dates or reminders to go in and check it every 30, 60, 90 days and make sure that these get updated. That way I create it once and then I update it throughout. And then whenever we do get to the point where we're hiring employees, it's not like we have all these initiatives that we have to go and do because we're hiring. No, we just have to say, okay, we're going to take everything that's important for somebody onboarding to our company. We're going to build it in our Grapevine workspace that can house literally everything in the company's system and push that over to them. And then it's not this whole big ordeal. Okay.
All right. So just want to make sure that we're still recording. All right. So I'll have to make sure that we have proper documentation to maintain readiness and business continuity. Okay. And then let's say, what are we doing that does not move the needle? Right now, at the moment, we are spending a large portion of time building the product. We need to shift the ratio of building to sales/marketing, where we are improving and maintaining the product based on real users, not founder vision.
Luckily, we're working with design partners and we have this element, but the ratio is still off, right? So that's what I'm talking about here. Okay, now we're going to pick the main constraint. So I've already written this over here, but this is super important. The single answer becomes the center of your strategy. So the primary constraint limiting our progress right now is,
Okay. So I'm just going to paste this here and we're going to make sure that it makes sense. So execution depends on human coordination rather than durable structure. We have something that strategy can actually attack. So let me take that away and let's talk about this. So the constraint here is that execution depends on human coordination rather than durable structure. That's for our product, right? The main constraint limiting progress on this being a success is building anything or talking to anyone outside of the need to not become the system, i.e. the glue holder.
So if they don't fit that, then we are barking up the wrong tree. We're wasting our time.
All right. And then we will win by 4. All right. We will win by reducing manual coordination for glue holders who are piecing together the system over and over again.
So this will get better whenever it gets off screen, but you can kind of get the idea. Like this is how we're going to make the strategic choices, right? So if we look at our pillars, these are the areas that we focus on, not projects, right? So you can see it here. If you have more than 5, you don't have a strategy. So pillar 1 is we are going to become the durable execution layer for cross-functional initiatives. We're going to prove replacement, and replacement means system
over manual coordination, right?
And we're going to earn trust before we scale
by working with design partners first and identifying themes to narrow down.
All right. And then we're going to continue to build in public with discipline, using this as our accountability tool. And what I mean by accountability tool for me is if I'm building in public, it allows me to see if I am actually building in public where we're showcasing certain things. Like, for example, I go to LinkedIn right here. The building in public
post today was about this. So it wasn't just about the product or the system or anything that we're building. It was actually, how do you know if a pivot is working? Because we pivoted from the old software where we weren't gaining that much traction. We got up to 10 customers, but as I say down here, 10 customers, 9 on freemium. That's a red flag that I ignored because I didn't want to come to this part where is it okay. If I weren't the founder for the old product that we were building, would I use this product in the company I worked for? No. Right. So this is a little bit of accountability, but I can also tap into, are the signs that we're seeing now versus the signs that I saw before. So now I'm kind of gaining that credibility as not just being a first time founder, but being a founder who has failed and done the wrong things so I can help other people. Right. Okay. So that's what we need to mean there. The 3 to 5 strategic pillars, and these could probably be better. So I might come back and go into them. But let's see. This is the no list. So what we will not do is right here. I already wrote these down. Okay, so this is what we will not do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I should mention, if you have a team that you can do this and you're not just doing it by yourself, bring them in because that will be super helpful for you. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to define what success looks like. I'm just seeing if we have anything in my script that I want to add here. All right, so if we're successful in this 12-month period, revenue outcomes will be at least 120K ARR, which means that we're going to be looking at 10K MRR, right? If my math is correct, 12 months, 10K each. So we should be good there because that gives me the ability to continue building Grapevine bootstrapped. It gives me the ability to still support my family. And it gives me the ability to, one, shoot for a goal that is actual quantitative. And that's something that we can gear towards. We can track, okay, if we did this month, if we did this month, if we did this quarter, then next quarter we need to do this amount, right? So that's what we're talking about here. Customer outcomes. So one, and first and foremost, is manual coordination is reduced significantly. Teams are more aligned, productive, and engaged, right? And then ultimately, customers will love Grapevine Workplace so much that they begin to refer others, right? That's a sign of true product market fit. Okay, product outcome. We will identify the one aha moment that we hone in on as our wedge into users. The product will be seen as a system rather than just another tool. We aren't trying to replace tools necessarily. We are trying to deliver a system that helps glue holders reduce manual coordination while increasing or reduce. So teams and companies can create a system that is sustainable and no longer depends on one person or a small group of people to be the system putting everything together. Team outcome we would be able to, let's see, this was tough because right now it's just me, but the team outcome, we would be able to invest more in marketing due to a consistent revenue growth outcome. We would possibly bring in, let's see, we'd possibly bring in, it depends, right? Whenever you're thinking about this, you want to think about, like, if you're a solo founder like I am right now, what most benefits you? And so honestly, if I'm being honest, the team outcome is I would be able to support my family by running Grapevine Workplace full time, something like that, right? Because that's the true one. Now the operational, this is for me. I would be able to run Grapevine Workplace entirely from Grapevine Workplace itself. So that's for me. Operationally, you could think about, like, okay, we're going to have clear sales processes. We're going to have clear metrics for XYZ. So I'll actually put that. We will have clear metrics and KPIs to measure our successes or failures. We will or this is operational. Let's see. We will tighten our sales process, lead gen, and mechanisms for repeatable leads. Because if that's the case, then we're going to be able to continue to do this. So we'll just stop right there. I know the video is super long. Pre-mortem. So if we think about the pre-mortem, if this strategy fails, it will likely fail because I lost focus. I built too much or too many features before gaining customers. I built a nice to have, not a painkiller. I didn't segment down into a specific use case, ICP, industry. To reduce that risk, we will leverage Grapevine Workplace to ensure we follow through from strategy to execution to day to day. I'll continue to speak with my advisors every week and be fully transparent. We will measure and track against goals each quarter. So these are the types of things that we're going to do specifically. Now, again, we haven't gotten into goals. We haven't gotten into OKRs or initiatives or anything like that. This is all breaking down what it is that we're going to be doing for the next 12 months. All right. So this one, write the strategic narrative. So let me just see how much we got left. Okay, we're almost done. All right, so write the strategy narrative. The market is changing because, so we actually went up in here and talked about that right here. So we can even bring this down. Now, this is going to be too long. So let's say what changed, why now? The market is now ready for another operating system that works for how we work today. And again, this was not going to be good. I'm going to have to do some longer thoughts out here to make it good, because I want to make something that says what changed, why now, what we believe, our thesis, what we are focusing on, pillars, execution, or exclusion, sorry, and then what this means for the team. I'm going to do that offline, but what I'll say is make sure
that you're being realistic on here and you're using the research that you conducted earlier, and that's going to become your strategy narrative. And again, bounce this off your team if you have them, or if you have advisors, or even your significant other that knows more about your company than other people. Like, use the other people around you so you can get outside of your own self and not just have this, okay, this is what we think, right? Okay. So now we're going to go to the rollout plan, or let me actually go through this. So like what we believe our thesis. So if I say what changed, why now, is remote work was more popularized, which means that now we have more flexible companies, or what I would call distributed teams, right? So if I had a distributed team, what does that look like? That means that we're working in different time zones, we're working in different locations. And in some cases, that's not even the case. A distributed team could be, we have some people in the front office, we have some people in HR, and then we have frontline workers like manufacturing, hospitals, right? Or truck drivers or delivery drivers, right? So that's what's changed. The workforce has become more global, more distributed, and people are working in different locations at different times, and so on and so forth. So that's what has changed, meaning that what's out there now needs a new operating system. And that's what we're building. We call it a digital workplace, or we call it a work management tool, because that's what people can connect to, but it's really how you're managing and doing the work today. And then what we believe is that the only constant that will be the way that employees connect or see information or collaborate and communicate with each other on a consistent everyday basis is no longer the office. It's no longer team meetings. It's no longer even Zoom meetings, right? It's the digital workplace. That's why we call it a digital workplace, because our thesis is that the digital workplace, or whatever you want to call it, the digital place that people, information, processes, productivity, notes, all that is constant, and how everybody stays aligned and focuses on the execution layer is going to be in a digital workplace. So that's our thesis. What are we focusing on? So if I go back up to the pillars, what we're focusing on is becoming the durable execution layer for cross-functional initiatives, right? We're going to replace, meaning that we're replacing with a system over scattered tools, scattered or manual coordination, or the back and forth, the restitching. That's what we're focusing on. We're going to try to earn trust before we scale, meaning that we're not going to just go, okay, we're going to get funded. That's a lot easier said than done, but we're not going to say that we're going to grow. We're going to put money on this. No, we're going to be earning the trust through design partners. And that just means early customers, people who are helping us shape the product, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. And then the other thing is we're going to be building in public as an accountability tool, but it's also an awareness of what's really hitting the ears of the people that we're trying to connect with, which are the glue holders, right? So we're going to be focusing on those things. And the things that we're not going to be doing is we're not going to just say, this is for everybody. We're not going to go into, well, yeah, you're using Notion now and you're using Slack and you're using Asana. We can replace all those. No, we're going to go in, okay, this is where strategy meets execution, and where you actually can see the work being done in the platform and blah, 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 right? We're not going to be broad on, yeah, we just work with small businesses. No, we're going to get very specific. Is it agencies that we focus on? Is it, what are their titles in the glue holder realm of agencies, so on and so forth. We're not going to do the category hype. That's why I haven't been really focused on like digital workspace or operating system or work management. That just gives me a clear cut view of where I need to do my research and how to stay up to date on some of those competitors, right? And then no building things that don't reduce dependency on people, right? And this isn't about replacing people or using AI to have you have less people or anything like that. It's more about the glue holder becoming the system, because that's a risk for the company. If you have one person or a small group of people who make it seem like everything's operational, but if they stepped away or went on vacation, everything falls down, you're building on a house of cards, right? So we are giving you the foundation for your company to have a sustainable system that doesn't rely on one person or a small group of people. So that's what we're talking about. And what this means for teams is exactly what I just said, right? That's what it means. So, okay, what is our kickoff date? Again, I'm going to backtrack this because I did some of this already. Weekly reinforcement, Grapevine workplace. You see how nice I was? I even added Monday and other tools out there. Monthly review mechanism.
OKRs, projects, and then insights in Grapevine Workplace. And then quarterly reset, Zach, right? Founder. Okay. Strategy is documented clearly. I'm going to do a 4. I'm not going to be overhyped because if I go over here, so I'm going to show you my notes right here, but if I go here, we have the strategy within Grapevine Workplace crossing the chasm, and then we have Grapevine Workplace here as well. So we already have the initiatives and everything mapped out there. So let me get back to my content pillar because that's what I'll use to end out this session. So let me pull that back over. Let me go back. Everyone can name the top 3 priorities. I'm gonna say a 3 right now because I still gotta go through this and learn it right now. Exclusions are enforced. That is true because that's a lesson that I learned the hard way. We review it monthly. We will. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 5. I know that Grapevine is gonna hold me accountable there too. So I can probably put a 5, but I'll do a 4. I'll do a 4. Initiative maps directly to pillars. Yes, that is spot on because that's our entire system and the reason that we do that. So now if you use this template, you'll see down here, we have OKRs, initiatives, execution rhythm, and measurements. So you're going to be able to have all this at your fingertips. And whenever you come back to the website to download this or open it in a new tab and then fill it out like I did, it will open up where you have your strategy filled out. And then it will open up to the next one, which is OKRs. And then the next one, if you wait until after all the videos are done, you'll get all of these in one download session. So, okay, to finish off this video, we're going to talk about, you saw everything that we did, we built it out, but now we're going to talk about how to decide what not to do. And then we'll close it out with top strategy mistakes and how to roll this out. So the part that makes strategy useful on a day-to-day basis is the decision filter. So any new idea gets one question from your strategy. For us, it's going to be, does this directly reduce the dependency on people holding execution together by hand or manually? If it's no, it's just noise to us. We can take it and remember it maybe, but it's not worth a distraction. If it's yes, then it's worth our attention. Now, being worth your attention doesn't always mean that it's something that you should do, but it's definitely something that you should look into. And once you do that research and you break it down or you have conversations with teams or customers, then you can decide it's worth our attention and we're going to put it into our product roadmap. We're going to put it into how we build content. We're going to put it into who we partner with, right? That's what you want to think about here. That's how you decide, because strategy isn't just a plan, as we said in the beginning. It's a filter that protects your focus. That's the whole thing with strategy. It's what you are going to focus on. And it's one of the hardest things because if you don't do this correctly, then you get into the weeds of the day-to-day and you look up and you realize, oh, I've been going this way when I probably should have went this way, right? So on that, here are some of the top strategy mistakes that it can kill your strategy. So the mistakes that we see in how strategy collapses, calling goals a strategy. I see this a lot where people will just start with goals, but they didn't do what we just did first. So where are the goals coming from, right? If you're starting with goals, you're not doing it right. The other thing is too many priorities, right? It's a focus game here. Too many priorities. I worked at an organization and I was the OKR program leader, and I helped people create their own OKRs. This was before AI, which now we have how you can generate your OKRs with AI inside of Grapevine and even cascade them from your manager's goals, which makes it so much easier. That would have been so nice. But too many priorities. We had this person who created OKRs and they had, I want to say like 13 or 15 goals or objectives and then key results underneath there. No, if you're creating goals, then you want to have 3 to 5. I call it the 4x4 or the 3x5. We'll get into that next episode, but too many priorities, right? That's where we go back to like, what's the one market trend? What's the one problem that you're focused on? What's the one niche industry? So on, you get the point. The other thing is that there's no trade-offs. So if everything is just yes, it's not a strategy. If there's no trade-offs or conversations happening,
on should we do this? Does it match what we just talked about? Does this directly reduce the dependency on people holding execution together by hand or manually? That's how you're going to balance those trade-offs, right? No constraints. Again, it goes back to that same question too, but there's no constraints within your strategy. Strategy is not about doing what you think is exciting all the time. It's about doing what you think is going to be the right path to make you successful in your company's ambition or vision, right? And then no narrative that people can repeat. During that quick pause of going from sharing the screen to not, I created this narrative that we're going to use. So work is breaking because initiatives don't have a durable place to live. So execution collapses into human coordination. In 2026, we're focusing on becoming the durable execution layer for cross-functional initiatives by proving replacement, earning trust before scale, and building in public with discipline. Now, I think it could still be better, but I wanted to share that with you so you can have something to compare yours to when you're creating it. Now, the other two mistakes is, or we talked about that, no narrative people can repeat. The last one is rolling it out once and never reinforcing it. Most strategy dies because it gets announced once or maybe multiple times in that month or quarter, and then the urgency replaces it. Strategy is kind of like your decision metric or matrix, where if something urgent comes up, battle test it against that question, that constraint, and then choose the trade-offs, right? I've seen this time and time again. You start off the year super excited. You have the strategy, the North Star, what you're focusing on, what you want to accomplish. Everybody's excited. And then 6 months later, sometimes even earlier, urgency pops up. You have this angry customer that it's like 80% of your revenue, right? And then now you have to drop everything and go over there and beg them to stay and do everything in your power. But in some cases, the actual thing is, how many more customers could we take on if we took this person or this customer that takes 80% of our time, right? Like that's what we're talking about strategy. Anything that comes up then becomes a question to battle test against what it is that you're trying to shoot for, that you identified in your strategy, and what it is that you actually take on as a company, as a team, as a person in that organization, right? And so now to end this out, I'm going to very quickly talk about how to roll it out so it sticks. So if you want strategy to stick, it needs these three things, and we've talked about it. Narrative. So people understand why it exists. That's why I think mine can still be better. People need to know why this exists and what we are focused on. And then the last one is cascade, or the second one is cascade. So teams translate it into their own direction, right? So you have this narrative, but you need to make sure that you're passing it down. This is why I like async communications in these situations, because it doesn't just stay in that leadership team meeting or what I'm doing right here, right? It gets passed down word for word, verbatim, on where it really leaves no interpretation. Now, even better if you attach this with a video, right? And then you have a follow-up meeting with the team to discuss, does everybody understand this? Are there any questions? Is there anything that's not translating to you, right? So that's cascading, right? Async video, create a one pager that goes into the narrative, even go through the strategy in detail with the team. And then the last part of rolling it out is the cadence. The narrative and the cascade is what you do at the beginning, and you want to continue to do that throughout the time of the 12 months in this case, and that's where cadence comes in. So this is weekly reinforcements. You can do that in our system. Monthly reviews, quarterly resets. If you don't build the cadence, you don't have a strategy. You have a moment in time that everybody was excited, and then it goes away. So the cadence is almost the most important thing here once the strategy is created. Now, that is then going to turn into your OKRs or your goals. That's going to turn into initiatives, the executional rhythm, so on and so forth that we'll get into. But as I showed you on the screen, to close this out, I'm giving you the exact strategy builder template that we use today. Is literally what it is, what you saw there. So we researched the sprint plan, we diagnosed, we selected the constraints, we chose our pillars, we created the no list, we created the narrative, we talked about the rollout cadence, and That's available on the website now. It's going to be in the description. So make sure that you check that out. And so the next episode that we're doing in this strategy to execution series, we're going to be talking about turning the strategy into your OKRs the right way, because there is a lot of wrong ways, and I've experienced that firsthand. You don't want them to die in a spreadsheet. You don't want them to be sitting over here in la la land where nobody ever visits. So if you're excited about this episode, the episode before, and the ones that are coming, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, share it with somebody on your team that would find this valuable, or share it with your ops person. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.